Insects, the most interesting organisms in the world. Insects may seem scary, seem foreign, but in reality, insects are beautiful creatures that contribute much to the ecosystem. Insects are a vital component of the food chain, and even though it may seem hard to believe, they're tasty. There are many reasons to appreciate insects. Here is one of the most important reasons. Pollination is a wonderful thing, and it's what keeps the plants on Earth alive. Pollination is a process in which a bug would land on a certain plant to consume the nectar inside. As it walks on the plant or eats the nectar, it collects little specks of pollen, packing them into bags on its legs. Pollen then reaches another plant and creates a seed, which makes more plants for bugs to enjoy. As you can see, this black wasp is walking on the spray of white flowers and is slowly collecting the pollen from the bud onto the many hairs on its feet while feeding on the nectar. This bug may find its way to another plant and end up fertilizing that one. Now on this plant, which is called a sedum, the bee is putting its head into the flowering spray of buds to drink up the nectar. While it does this, it is accidentally gathering pollen from the plant so more sedums can grow. As you can see, pollination is a beautiful thing, and without it, everything on this planet would die, because of the lack of flowers and plants that benefit from pollination. Now that's pollination. In this movie, we'll teach you about some interesting common insects and how they affect our lives. Let's start with life cycles.
Every insect has a different life cycle. There are two types of life cycles: incomplete metamorphosis and complete metamorphosis. Let's compare them. The simple, otherwise known as an incomplete life cycle of a two-striped planaria includes 3 stages: egg, nymph, and adult. On the other hand, the monarch butterfly has a complete metamorphosis with 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. In the two-striped planaria, simple metamorphosis, the nymph and adult look very similar, whereas the monarch larva and adult are so different from one another that people think of them as 2 different animals. Next, let's take a look at some common insects' legs and how they use them on a daily basis.
All insects have a head, antennae, thorax, abdomen, and 6 jointed legs. Many insects can share the same ecosystem because each kind of insect has different physical adaptations. Let's look at legs. All insects' legs have femurs, tibias, and tarsals, but the monarch's tarsals have chemoreceptors to smell and taste. This is the leg of a housefly. It uses the hairs on the tibia to clean its body. It uses the hairs on its tarsals to stick to surfaces. These insects have these adaptations because of their habitats and the plants in them. Insects can be very picky. Some of them use very specific native plants for food and shelter. Animals get most of their fuel from plant life or from organisms that eat plants. Surprisingly, 96% of animals depend on insects for food. Insects are a vital part of the ecosystem, and without them, the food web might collapse. Specialist insects have evolved to digest and interact with specific native plants. For example, the fritillary butterfly likes the nectar of violets and black-eyed Susans. Native plants have co-evolved with specialist insects and work together with them, while invasive plants are plants that are new to an ecosystem and disturb the food web by breaking up the relationships between insects and plants. This means that native plants support more insects than invasive plants. A challenge that insects face in addition to invasive plants is climate change and habitat loss.
Have you ever wondered how climate change can affect insects? You may be wondering, what in the world is climate change? Climate change is a change in global or regional climate patterns caused by the increase of CO2 levels in the atmosphere. CO2 traps heat in the atmosphere and warms the planet. The amount of carbon dioxide is higher now than at any time in the last 80,000 years. At the current pace, the global temperature is rising. 25 to 35% of species on Earth are at increased risk of extinction. As the temperature changes, certain plants die. This impacts insects that need them. For example, climate change affects the fly because the black-eyed Susan is sensitive to moisture levels. Without black-eyed Susans, the fly will have fewer choices of shelter. A reduction in the number of flies could cause hunger for frogs, fish, and snakes. This would affect the ecosystem. This also affects the fritillary butterfly, because the fritillary eats plant nectar, and as the climate gets too hot, certain plants won't be there for the fritillary to eat. A possible solution to help climate change is by using fewer fossil fuels. The more we do to slow down the rate of climate change, the better the world gets and the more insects that live.
Humans cannot survive as the only species on this planet. We need other species like insects because they create the ecosystem. If we start sharing our landscapes with insects, we could save much of the land that still exists. Here are 3 ways you can help insects in your own backyard. First, do not rake up the leaves in the fall. Insects can use the leaves for food and shelter during the winter. Second, put out clean water in a shallow dish filled with rocks for insects to perch on as they drink. Avoid using pesticides because they are deadly to many helpful species.